I'm having about 5 presentations, and I was not sure. I was last night trying to think of many issues, but I'll juggle around and speak to other issues. I have a speech, I have presentations, I have but I've been trying to listen to what we have said yesterday, although I was not here in the afternoon, trying to see how best we can deal with this. But for me, the major issue really is what is it that we're doing? We're all trying to do everything. We're all trying to do the same thing. We have purpose, we have intention. The issue is that we need to find a way of integrating even what we're doing and not talk about work-integrated learning. Integrating so that we can have a coherent approach to the issues. What I would like to focus on will be on how we have worked with the TVET lecturers in terms of capacity building. Somebody said he doesn't like the word capacity building. It's very difficult and awkward word, but we use it in any way for the college lecturers. But let me start by saying that we started as ETDP SETA in 2012 to think about work-integrated learning. We have implemented internships. We have implemented learnerships. We have seen all those workplace kind of learning areas of focus, but we had an understanding of we need to have work-integrated learning. The reason why has been like, if you look into our own education system, there's a lot of wastage of money. There's a lot of wastage of human capital. I'll give you a few examples. We get our students that fail matric these days, and I normally raise the issue. They fail matric. When they fail matric 2 or 3 subjects, our schools don't allow them to repeat matric. We know that in our case, some of us sitting here failed matric 2 or 3. You know as you are sitting there. I won't say raise your hand. But you did repeat matric and were able to get to university and get a profession today. But it is a sad story because they cannot repeat, there's no space for them. And then they find themselves told that they will do supplementary exams. If they fail in December with all the teachers, come March, will they really succeed? It's not possible. We find them roaming around the streets. But what we've done with NYDA, we have a matric rewrite program so that they can get into the issue. Now, if you look into that, most of these, they can't even make that matric rewrite because they fail even more than 2 or 3 subjects. Then they go to the TVET colleges. Then at the TVET college, we are sitting with those learners that have grade 10, they have grade 11, they have grade 12, not passed everything. And then they qualify with NQF level 4, which is the same thing. At some point, Umalusi did a study comparing the National Senior Certificate together with the NCV, and we have found the gaps that those that have NCV do not have the same quality with the National Senior Certificate in some areas. Now you find that those learners are wasting a lot of time. Instead of grade 10 and be redirected to TVET colleges because of the understanding of the career pathing in our life orientation that is not there. They remain there. And many of these learners disappear between grade 10 and grade 12. Nobody knows where they are. And now we do have an accelerating system where the grade 11s must not fail. They must go to grade 12. Hence you find the high rate of failure within grade 12. Now they spend that 3 years within the school, and then they go and spend another 3 years doing NCV, 6 years before they have an NQF level certificate, 4. What is it that we're doing? Let's leave that. Let's get to those that go to university, they pass. They get a BA degree. The employer wants a human resource person. The person has BA degree in human resource but does not have an experience. That's what I said yesterday. It becomes a catch-22 situation. Then they have to go for internship for 12 years. And at times, 12 months, sorry, minimum, 12 months minimum. Then they don't get employment at the end of the day because there are no mentors, there are no supervisors, and that workplace is not ready to appoint some of them because of the poor quality of the fundamentals that are not there. Then they go back. Some of them have jet accounts, have Ackermans accounts. The stipend of 12 months has gone away, and therefore they suffer more. Why do we train people and get them to university? After that, they go for work experience. And then they remain unemployable. Because our major challenge in South Africa, more than unemployment, is unemployability. How do we deal with unemployability? And hence the work integrated learning is trying to deal with the unemployability issue so that when I'm ready, I must be able to tackle the work that is offered to me. Why nurses, teachers, policemen don't need internship? I go and do my diploma in teaching. After that, I get employed. What has gone wrong? Because those professions were the only professions that were availed to some of us with mediocre mentality that you must be a policeman or woman, you must be a teacher, you must be a nurse. If you are brilliant enough, you can be a doctor or a social worker. Those were the only ones. After that, you go straight to the job. Today, I've done a study on the effectiveness of the internships. They remain unemployed for 3 to 5 years with master's degree. Today, we have South African Graduate Association that is having the database of thousands and thousands of unemployed graduates. They've created an association for that. Just to be in the database. But let me leave that. I'm trying to say that as we try to find solutions here in this SASCI conference, we must understand that there's a lot of wasted there of our youth that are unemployed and unemployable at the end of the day. There's a big challenge of the human capital that is being wasted. So it's important that at some point we converge to something that is better. We have tried in 2012, we supported the college lecturers on work integrated learning. But after looking back into that, we realized that this is not work integrated learning. This is industry exposure. Because there's so many terminology that is there. It was industry exposure because we gave them money. They went for 3 weeks, others went for 3 days, others went for 6 months to any industry that they chose to go. But when we did a study on evaluation and impact on those issues, we couldn't find much that was assisting the learners. For 3 years, we have involved in the industry exposure with the colleges. And using huge sums of money because we had to even buy some of them protective wear, give them the allowance to go and travel and sleep in those industries. But there was no improvement in the results of the TVET system. In fact, when we look into the results of the TVET colleges compared to National Senior Certificate, at some stage it was 13%. I think 2 years ago it was 23%. That's why you don't get them advertised. There's high rate of failure that we're having there. And the majority of them are doing office administration. Who's going to appoint them? Because with NCV, we still have to give them internship, unlike the N courses. So those are the challenges that we encountered. And then we realized that there's work-based learning that we also offered to students. But at the end of the day, we did an evaluation. We found that not even 10% got employed after that work-based learning that they did, because it was short kind of 3 weeks, 3 months stuff. and they remained employable. Same thing that was raised, that the employer does not see that you have these capabilities. And many of them, they don't even get through the interviews. So many positions are advertised, but at the end of the day, you say that I couldn't find a suitable candidate. Why? And then we said that let us look in terms of, if we talk of work integrated learning, it means it has to be embedded in the curriculum and in the assessment practices of the trainers themselves before you even talk about workplace experience for the learners. And therefore we worked with Saki and got into a partnership and say that let us build the capacity of the colleges. Because we looked into the white paper, which indicated that WIL must be the core. However, until today, we do not have an umbrella or a kind of a policy framework where all of us can get closer to that. And then in this WIL program, we're also looking in terms of the extent to which the lecturers can be able to do the placements. Because what you find with the internships in many cases, it's no longer internships that you have done HR. Anyone that has done finance can go to HR as long as I get something for 12 months and get a stipend. And then they move from this SETA to another SETA and do a different internship. So many have seen the stipends as a form of social grant because they don't get that. Then we looked in terms of how do we deal with this in a more kind of coordinated. And we were not saying that this is the best system, but we had to sit down and looked in terms of the instruction itself, teaching and learning. Because if WIL is a separate thing with a coordinator, with an intern outside, and is not part of teaching and learning, and not within the academic director or the academic vice chancellor on WIL, we are wasting time. It's part of those side issues, unfunded mandates that we're having. Then it has to be part of the teaching and learning system. It has to be work integrated learning. It means theory is integrated with practice. It cannot be that I study for 2 years, then after that I go and see the workplace. That is not integration. Those are the two things that we do. And then, but you also look in terms of what is the curriculum? There is learning in the workplace. It may not be explicit, it is implicit. That kind of orientation and induction and the kind of the specialized skills that are needed by the industry, we need to understand them. And then within that industry, you also look in terms of what are the student opportunities that can be there? What are the interests of the students that are there? And then if we do that, we'll find that the pass rates will escalate. The throughput rate will escalate and employability will be created. Then we thought that this can be some of the system that we can use and adopt as part of the phase 1 of our planning system. When we did that, we had to understand what is the WIL. And we said that it has to be an umbrella term for any purposefully designed learning program that integrates theoretical knowledge with authentic practice in the workplace, not 1 day, 2 days, and that one. The workplace-based component of WIL, because within that WIL, you will find that theory, you will also find that workplace kind of learning must involve learning in and from real workplaces through industry visits, placement, and other types of interaction. I've seen people talking of simulations. Maybe I belong to the old school of thought. You know, I don't believe in non-real things. I'm just that person that I normally tell people that I'm neither optimistic nor pessimistic, I'm a realist. So if I'm going to use dolls and assume those are the people, the workplace is dynamic. It can never be the same one place to another. We can simulate and imitate. It doesn't. Yes, you can show a little bit because we have to see it as a laboratory. But most of the things, they work in the laboratory. They don't work in the plant. I once worked as a laboratory assistant doing tiles at Mali Flooring Industry in Belleville. I will do those tests because I'm doing in the sample. But if the defect is huge in the plant there, we all lose our jobs and get retrenched. It doesn't always translate when you do 1,000 and when you do 1. So we must be careful of simulations and not think that these are the alternate kind of methods. We must make sure that we look at the real issues. But also we want to look in terms of that component of will with professionalism in it. So that's why we look into the lecturers themselves more than we go into that. So that one was focusing on the theoretical part of it, and this one focuses on the industry-based kind of, although it has to be seen as a coordinated, coherent, and a seamless approach. A form of cumulative initial and continuing professional development that takes place through periodic, not once-off, industry placements and other forms of on-site engagement with the employers. And when we talk about engagement, we're not talking about something that is not there. They need to be engaged. They need to be involved in that one. And it reminds us, at some point, we were so upbeat about apprenticeships. Because there was an apprentice, there was a master. And that apprentice was there to be mastered, to be brought into that. And then we changed that into learnerships, 70 and 30. Then we found that it's not working because in real sense, I can go to anyone. Learnerships are not implemented in the manner they were supposed to be. There's nothing of the 70% workplace and 30% work. Because that 30% is done by the same training provider that is doing it. At some stage, even their understanding of the subject content is problematic. That's why learnerships are not favored by many higher education institutions. And there is no articulation of the learnerships to a qualification. Let us ask ourselves, why? Is it gatekeeping, autonomy? Those are the challenges that we're having. So we look in terms of will as that part that can be used as a professional kind of a basis. Now, in terms of the exposure of the lecturers, it's not only the teaching and learning that is there, but also exposure to current technology, because you can't drive will without current technology that is advanced today, and systems in the industry. Yes, those systems that are there, they must be known by the lecturers so that they are able. And also exchanges where industry people come into the classrooms and understand the classroom setting. Because it will be two different kinds of, but we need to find integration even in the settings where teaching and learning is taking place. So when we went in length into the understanding of that, we looked in terms of the workplace excursions. They need to look in terms of that as the lecturers. The workplace meetings, orientation, and induction sections. We did that as a cycle kind of a thing. Structured monitoring of students during WIL. Placement, training, and it becomes a cycle. Although here in my body doesn't. In this which you can find in our stall outside, there is an information booklet where we have given some information in terms of how we began to work on the WIL for lecturers at the colleges. And then it gives us some stages in terms of the stage, the phase 1, where first it is more of the study trips for exploratory and orientation and understanding the industry. Second one are those short placements, then you get lengthy placements. It can be a once-off, but it has to start with the lecturers. Then it has to get into the students. Then on the student portion of it, On the student portion, we are taking those that have N6 certificate, placing them, in fact, giving them more of the stipend because employers are no longer giving the stipends. And those stipends help them to go to the workplaces and get the experiential learning. However, the problem that we're having as many of the sitters, most of the TVET colleges and some of the UOTs, they place those students in their own institutions. Now the question is that WIL, I'm not saying that their own institutions are not correct, but at times you find that the environment is different because you understand that certain kinds of organizations, they are harsher than the learning institutions or vice versa. So it's not the same, and therefore it is important to expose them in different kinds of settings. So now we are busy with the qualification, the TVET qualifications for college lecturers. And you may not be surprised that there are various qualifications within the TVET college systems. Some lecturers have N6 only. There are some that have N5, we did the study. There are those that are having teachers' diplomas, your senior teacher's diploma. There are those that are having degrees, and many have done NPDE, National Professional Diploma in Education, which we did for the unqualified teachers. They still continue to wanting to do that. But now we have agreed with the department that there would be a qualification. And there are universities now that are working with the Department of Higher Education and Training in the qualification, in the university directorate. They are working on the qualification, but we have made it very clear that the qualification should have the WIL requirement in it as part of that qualification. The diploma in technical and vocational teaching, the PED in technical and vocational teaching, advanced diploma in technical and vocational teaching, advanced certificate in TVET certificate that is there. So there will always be those credits that will be embedded, so that at the end of the day, when they acquire the qualification, we hope that by 2016, we'll have the qualification ready that will have WIL embedded in it. Let me not bother you with much of this. The other component now that we would like to focus on is the research component on work-integrated learning and recognition of prior learning. We have commissioned a research, you have a research chair, unlike that of NRF. For us, a research chair, you are a research that is commissioned, and Dr. Nduna, that is there from CPUT, is our research chair for work-integrated learning. Already, she got approval and permission to go to all TVET colleges and understand what is this WIL, what is their understanding. Remember now they have this prior kind of learning that is in place as a base. How are they applying it? How is it going to articulate into practice? How is it improving the throughput rate? How is it improving their own kind of self-development? And how do we ensure that it is improving the employability of the students at the end of the day, so that we don't have students that are getting out of the institutions and then they need further workplace experience. It has to be embedded. It will not only look at the TVET colleges, but also we'll start with the UOTs and find that space, because we also have students that are in the UOTs. So that work-integrated learning research and our recognition of prior learning will give us some better results. Probably in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll be able to say that this is what is happening. And that's how serious we also want to get a framework on work-integrated learning and encompass all the other bits and pieces that are happening, so that we can provide the country with something to work on in addressing the issues of work-integrated learning, not for the sake of having it, but to improve unemployability in the country. In closing, let me just say that, cut all of this. I'll provide the slides if people need to get into that. There are challenges that are there. I think they were raised also by the CEO of Health and Welfare Sector. Securing placements with employers. It's a very difficult aspect. The college capacity to manage that, because there's a lot that is done at the colleges. They have their own MCV, they have their own kind of curriculum, they want to implement learnerships, they want to do everything, because they also need to get some kind of funding. And the capacity is not there, as I've indicated, in terms of the competences and the skills. And also the issue of funding. I've raised the issue yesterday that there should be dedicated funding. Without that funding, that is not dedicated, that is not sustainable, we are not going to reach the destination that we want to reach. Let me just not get into the whole, it's quite a long kind of a slide. But I must say that as much as we go into all of these issues, recognition of prior learning, as much as we go into the issues of work-integrated learning, all of us doing work-based learning, doing everything, what we need also to understand is that at times we like to be reactive as the people of the country. We are not proactive. For me, in terms of how we structure this at the HTTP Center, we start with career guidance. The students, as they start grade R, do we understand what is the destination of these learners? How do we prepare them? How do we get the route for them? And how to make sure that they succeed? In fact, the other issue, the wastage that I normally like to raise is on the ECD practitioners. If you care to know that anyone that does early childhood development, not having passed matric, they do NQF level 4 with us, which takes 18 months to get the certificate. Then they need to do a diploma. For us, it takes it's 24 months, but it takes 30 months to get a certificate. That gives you 30 plus 18. For them to teach at grade R, they must do grade R teaching diploma, which is 3 years full-time. It can be 5 or 6 years part-time. Then they must do for grade 1. They can't do with grade R. They can't do with ECD diploma. They can't do with ECD certificate. They must do BEd degree, which is 4 years full-time, without recognizing what they have done after that. And with UNISA, the BEd is 10 years, part-time. That's ECD practitioner. That is the kind of the wastage that I'm saying that is in the system, which creates unemployability. Whilst we're dealing with the structural unemployment, which is caused by our macroeconomic policies and the economic decline in the country. So I'm saying that issues of career development, issues of ensuring that right kind of subject are chosen by the learners, the issues of understanding the labor market, those are the issues that we need to do. And then when we get them at the higher level, we know exactly what are their interests, what are their destinations, and different institutions to do different things in order to think about the learner and not their own kind of existence. Because the issue is now, it's about our own existence and what we can do, but not in the interest of the learners. I thank you.
The University of Johannesburg. Rethink, reinvent.